Here we go. Can I just check in if the sound quality is okay? When you click at the hover near the top of the window, you see a button called My Mood. If you hover over that, four different colored buttons come up. If the sound quality is okay, could somebody or all of you click on the green thumb up for me, or just type in the chat window that it sounds okay, or if it doesn't sound okay, please click the red down thumb. Great, everybody looks to be thumb up. That's great, fantastic. All right, can I now get you all to click the grey button again to get rid of your thumbs for a moment? That would be wonderful. Lovely. Great. The purpose of business. What's great and what's special about your business? What's great about you and your business? And you heard me talk about that at length last week in Leichhardt at Meet Me at the Pub. I heard afterwards that there was quite a bit of noise going on there, so that some of you mightn't have heard me as well as I might have hoped. But it was a nice event. I enjoyed myself, and I hope you did too, and that you met some good people. So we're going to get started. So today is a webinar. It's on the same topic as my presentation was, except we'll dig into it a bit deeper. The purpose of business, and this is what the webinar will look like today. I'm going to give you a whole heap of stuff, as much as I can cram into your brains in the time that we have. Hang on, I need to just check something for a second. Oh, bear with me for a moment. Yep, that was fine. Oh, sorry about this, guys. Just need to check something. I've got the right. I just remembered. No, that should be fine. Yep. Okay, cool. All right. So, sorry about that. On the way. So this is the webinar is going to look like today. I'm going to give you a whole heap of stuff, as much as I can cram into your brains in the time that we have. So hang on for the ride. Because I love this topic, I'll talk about it until the cows come home, and you'd have to literally bury me on the concrete to stop me talking about it, because our ideas are like our children. Our own are always the most special, so I really get excited about this stuff. So in a moment, I'm going to tell you what you can expect during the session and what we'll cover. And at the end, I'll tell you how you can make take a really easy next step with a special offer for attendees of these sessions, these webinar only, if you want to. So, general comment before we go on. It's been proven time and time again that passively sitting and listening to someone talking means that you're going to forget 90% of what you've heard in less than a week. So if you want to get as much return on your investment of time in being on this webinar, you need to participate. The best way to ensure that you've focused is by working through the worksheets that I've got the link for you up there in the chat window. Just click on that link. That'll take you straight to a page with all the resources for the webinar, including webinar worksheets. Download them if you haven't done so already and print them out so you can work through them as you're going. And, ask questions. Please ask questions, either via the chat window or by, if you're putting up your hand through that My Mood button at the top, hover your mouse over the My Mood button, and then the blue box that comes up with the hand up will signal to me that you've got a question or that you're stuck. And if I notice that, when I notice that, I'll check in with you. So on page 2 of your worksheets is an explanation of the webinar screen. So any questions about that, of course, ask. And so, as I said, we're recording. So don't do all of this. That'd be cool. Because you do all of that, and your mobile phone and your Facebook and your LinkedIn and your Twitter and your whatever's, you won't get value out of being on this webinar, I promise you, because multitasking is actually a myth, honestly. And this is what we're going to go through today. We're going to check in where you are on this topic. We're going to talk about why purpose matters so much. We'll talk about the 4 principles of purpose. And we'll talk about why the purpose of business is not money. Talk about a few tools. Then we're going to have a story of John, the business bedtime story, they're called. The lessons from the story. 7 key questions. 7 key questions. That's a very important part. Then there is a special offer that I'm making to help you take one more step. And then we're going to get into action. We're going to take action steps and walk away with some practical actions, homework that you can take in your business to take one step forward to getting clarity of purpose. Remember, I was talking at the presentation about that clarity, that nothing else matters as much as that clarity about the purpose of your business. So, you know, you met me, but that's me, if you remember. I work with business owners to help them feel great about themselves and about their business, and I do so by making business fun and by building businesses that sustain you for years to come. And I'm the author of the 10 Truths, and this is a cover of the chapter of the first book, Truth 1, about the business purpose. A business without true purpose and passion isn't. And as I say in this same topic in the second book, a business that sustains you for years to come has a purpose for existing far beyond making profit and maximizing shareholder value. As you can see, it's a slightly different take on the same concept from in book 2 and book 2 to book 1. So this is what my outcomes for today are. This is what I want you guys to take away from attending the workshop. I want you to all walk away enthusiastically with at least one action that you're committed to taking in your business around finding that clarity about the purpose of your business. And I want you all to leave with a greater appreciation how important it is to be great at what you do, as well as to be great at running your business, because we're probably all good and great at what we do. You know, a lot of business owners like us, you know, we're great tradespeople or professionals and composers, cleaners, electricians. We know a lot about that profession or our trade, but to be a great small business owner and to build a fun business that sustains you for years to come, you have to have a solid understanding of all the key aspects of developing a business, not just your own profession or trade. And so these are the 10 cogs, the 10 truths, the 10 key aspects of business that we as business owners all wrestle with from time to time. Vision, purpose, planning, numbers, money. And numbers and money isn't necessarily the same thing, of course. Predictability, or the rhythm of business. There's actually 11 areas. Anyway, there's another one in there called sales. Customers, innovation, the market and marketing, people, and leadership. And look, it's just too much to focus on, right? It's just overwhelming and daunting. So I'm committing to helping small business owners around the world become less overwhelmed, less daunted about the demands of developing your business, and to have more fun. And so I'll be making you an offer later on to, as I said, to help you take another step on that journey. So before we go on, please go to your worksheet, and on the second page of that worksheet, you'll see a question with some space underneath it. And the question is, right now, this coming month, what's the biggest challenge you face in your business right now. What's the one thing that keeps you awake most of all? Take a moment to write that answer down on your worksheet, and I'm going to give you a minute's silence to write. The next question is, directly below the box that you've just been writing your own biggest challenges in, is about your outcome for being on this call. What do you want to get from being here today? So there's another box to write that down. The box says my outcome for participating. What do you want to get from being here today? Take a moment and write an answer and in there for that. And then ask yourself, once you've done that, how do I have to be on this call, on this webinar, so that I am giving myself the greatest opportunity for getting that outcome? Because there's only one person who can influence that directly, and that's you. You have no influence on what I'm about to deliver to you, but you do have influence on how you let that come to you and what you do with it. So let's get started. And to begin, let's check in how everybody feels about this topic, about the purpose of business, and about their clarity. So let me get the poll down. Here's the poll. No, hang on. Let's start voting. So, 4 questions. A, B, C, or D. I'd love you to select one of them in response to the question, when I think of the purpose of my business, what I feel is A, frustrated. And these questions are on your worksheet as well. Frustrated because all I seem to be able to do is compete on price. It seems like my market and my customers have mostly no other interest in my business than being the cheapest. Or B, I'm confused. I don't understand. I thought making profit would be the most important reason for my business to exist. Or C, because I'm hamstrung because I know where I want to go and what I want to achieve, if my customers just seem to want me to go somewhere else most of the time. Or D, I'm excited because I absolutely know with 100% clarity what my business exists for, and my customers and my staff are just as excited about that as I am. So please pick one. A, B, C, or D. 1 or 2 more people haven't voted yet. Give us your vote, please. Right. Okay, there we go. I think we've got pretty well all the votes in. So most people are in the A or C, actually. Not many people in B, couple, and nobody in D. And I suppose that's how we expect these things to turn out. Now, we're going to stop voting now. And it's a bit as I expected, of course. I often ask these questions of small business owners, and it's generally the answer that I get. We're confused and we're hamstrung sometimes. But why should we care about that? Why do we need to get clear about the purpose of our business? Why should we ask ourselves the question, what's the purpose with a capital P of my business? Why does my business exist? What's it here for? So why do you have to get so clear about that answer? And this is why. If you don't care why your business exists, your customers won't either. And if that's the situation, then all that's left is to compete on price. And competing on price is a dog's game. The one thing, there's always someone who'll do it cheaper. Hence the purpose of this call, how can we go about uncovering the purpose of our business? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some deeper understanding and insights about that purpose of business question, and I'm going to direct you to a few simple tools that you'll find really helpful to get clear about the purpose of your business, and I'll be leaving you with some simple steps to take straight away. I think we're on page 3 of your worksheet now, so let's jump straight into the 4 pillars, the 4 key principles that we're going to focus on in this webinar, and they are: first, the purpose of business is not to make money. That's the first pillar. Second, competing on price is not a strategy for sustainable business success. Third, in order to avoid having to compete on price, you need to be clear about the purpose of your business. And fourth, the purpose of your business has to relate to your customers' needs. So let's dig into those principles in greater depth, because the first thing to understand is why do I say that the purpose of business is not about making lots of money? Because the statement runs counter to most people's understanding of business at all levels. We've all heard the refrain that's echoed by business gurus around the world about maximizing shareholder value. But so am I saying that there's something wrong with making money? No, of course not. On the contrary, making profit is great. Absolutely nothing wrong with making lots of money. It's heaps of fun to make lots of money, and what's more, a business can't develop and grow if it doesn't make a healthy profit. Year in, year out, but it can't be why your business exists. It cannot be its reason for existing for 3 main reasons. Firstly, it doesn't differentiate you from anyone else. Everyone wants to make money. So how does that help the customer to make a decision about who is better for him or her? Secondly, your customers don't care about your need to make money, sadly. When was the last time that you yourself did business with anyone because they told you that they needed to make money? Never, of course. And it means never, it's never enough, because you can always make more money. So it's like this. John Mackey is the founder of Whole Foods Markets. It's a $6 billion organic and biodynamic grocery retail company. I think I might have mentioned it as well, but at the presentation, yeah, I did. Of course I did. Anyway, so in case you've forgotten. But Whole Foods Markets for John Mackey, $6 billion organic biodynamic grocery retail company, and like a lot like About Life, but much bigger and everywhere. So John Mackey says, thinking that your business exists to make profit is like thinking that human beings exist to eat food. We obviously need to eat food, and we enjoy eating food. Good food's nicer than bad food, but it's not why we exist. We need to eat food to make good on our purpose in life, and so it is with businesses and money. Your business needs to make profit and cash, and a fair bit of it, but the primary reason it needs profit is to allow it to fulfill on its true purpose. And look, many other, and this is I need to update this slide. This is the cover of a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, which you can just read. Not great, is it? Sorry about that. Many other people have written and talked about this concept as well. People such as Jim Collins, like this book cover, who's one of the greatest of the modern business management gurus. He goes into great detail about it in 2 of his brilliant books, Built to Last and Good to Great. And there's Roy Spence, who I mentioned at my talk in Leichhardt, and there's another one I really love, and there's a link to his TED talk on the resources page that you have there in your chat window as well. And that's Simon Sinek, and Simon says this in his talk that is linked there on the page, and that's his book. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, but they buy why you do it. In other words, your customers want you to explain to them why your business exists. What's it on this earth for, and why they should care. Now, a lot of you are going to say, yeah, okay, fair enough. But I'm okay, because I know what sets me apart, because I know what I'm good at. But the problem is that I find that when I ask most small business owners if they know what the purpose of their business is or what's special about the business, they generally give me one or all of the following 3 answers, and I bet you can remember what I mentioned there in the presentation. And it's what people say is, we do great work for a great price with great customer service. And remember, I asked you all if anybody there was putting up their hand to who was doing average work for an average price with average customer service, and nobody put up their hand, because everyone does great work, great price, great customer service. And I mean, all of you who are here today, that's exactly how it is. And, okay, well, what's wrong with those statements? Because, I do great work, and I do supply a great product, and I do it for a great price, and I do give great customer service to my clients. So what's wrong with all of that? Why isn't that a good enough purpose of my business? Well, it's great work. It's a motherhood statement, or an apple pie statement. A motherhood statement is what politicians are fond of making. I'm in favour of motherhood and apple pie. Vote for me if you agree with me. Well, those three statements, great work, great price, great service, are motherhood statements, because your customers expect those three things as a minimum. They wouldn't even be talking to you unless they expected them. And what's more, all your esteemed competitors say exactly the same thing. Believe me, trust me, they do. And you proved it to me again at the meeting. Everybody says that they do. And if they didn't say that if they didn't deliver great price, great product, great customer service, then they wouldn't actually be your competitors. They're only your competitors because they offer the same kind of thing. So, given that all of you say exactly the same thing, we offer a great product, great price, great service, then what's left for the customer to do? Again, only thing that's left to differentiate you on for the customer is price. Because that's the one thing that they believe that they can check easily. And that's what you start doing if you have to compete on price. Building a healthy small business on being the cheapest, it is a long, hard slug to nowhere. So, to illustrate of some really simple examples of businesses who have uncovered an amazing and deep purpose, and I've shared some of those with you already, I think. No, I didn't. I think, maybe I did. Anyway, so these are some of the ones that I worked with, or that's from other businesses around the world. There was one a client that I worked with who uncovered that as his purpose: architecture that inspires. There's another one that I saw, a table manufacturer. That's not a client of mine, and I'll talk about that a bit later. They said they claimed to be making the most beautiful tables in the world. BMW, not up on the screen there, but BMW, to enable people to experience the joy of driving. It's all about the joy of driving. And then that one there, to be the best small supermarket in Sydney. That was a client of mine. And mine, to help small business owners feel great about themselves and about their business by building businesses that are fun and that sustain them for years to come. So let me give you a little bit more background about that second one that's up on the screen there, the most beautiful tables in the world. Because that was a purpose statement of a furniture factory in the inner city of Sydney in Australia. Some of you, because this is in the inner west, it was in Glebe actually. Now, some of you might actually remember that. Some of those of you who are a little older, because it doesn't exist anymore now, because the company was owned by a guy called Nicholas Datner, and Nicholas actually closed the company, sold all the stock and closed the company at some point because he decided he'd made enough money, and he's, at last I know, he's sailing around the world in a boat that he bought, and he's not, he doesn't have to work anymore. And it was on Bleak Point Road near the rail overpass. And the business, so I often drove past that showroom, and the statement on the windows caught my eyes every time I went past. And it was fascinating to look up close because his business, his business purpose to make the most beautiful tables in the world drove all decisions and all processes in the business. Because once you set out to make the most beautiful tables in the world, so many things become clear. And remember, as I said in my presentation, clarity about the purpose of your business makes things easier in business, so much easier. Because suddenly there's no question about pricing anymore, for example. The most beautiful tables in the world could never be the cheapest tables. There's no question about how to select staff. Because the most beautiful tables in the world, to make the most beautiful tables in the world, you have to have well-paid, well-trained, highly skilled staff, and especially passionate staff. And there can never be a question about the material that's selected to make the most beautiful tables in the world, because you can't just go and pick up a piece of timber at Bunnings to make one of the most beautiful tables in the world. You've got to go and buy a special piece of timber. And, marketing decisions are easier, etc., 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 etc. So nailing your colors to the mast with that absolute clarity, it takes guts, but it also makes life easier and simpler. And from a marketing perspective, it really becomes easy to start conversations with potential customers. And if you were in the market for a table for your newly renovated home, wouldn't you want to at least go and have a look at the most beautiful tables in the world? Of course you would. I mean, I certainly did, and I bought one of their tables too, and I sent 2 friends to them over the years as well. Now, look, you might ask, how can you ever make a statement that you make the most beautiful tables in the world? I mean, what does that actually mean? I mean, what's beautiful when it's at home, and what do you think is beautiful for you? I mean, what you consider beautiful might be what I consider ugly. How do you measure most beautiful anyway? But that is the secret and the power of a purpose statement. It's a statement of striving for. It's a statement that defines an intention. Some wobbling happening here. Right, that's better. It's a statement that defines intention. It isn't actually a goal that can be achieved. It's not like a goal, but you can strive for it. You can ask yourself, this table that I'm making, that I'm designing, do I believe that it's one of the most beautiful tables in the world? And if I can't clearly answer that question with a resounding yes, well, then I won't make it, and I won't sell it. That's how clear you have to be about this stuff. And other people may decide, someone else may decide that particular table isn't the most beautiful table in the world for them, because they may believe that the most beautiful table in the world, well, it's got to be made of stainless steel and marble or something. But your table is made from timber. Well, while that's a fact, your table's made from timber and they like stainless steel tables, they can't argue that you believe it is the most beautiful table in the world. It's all about your belief and your clarity, and that is what people want to hear about. And that is exactly what Simon Sinek means when he says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I also love that first example in that list that I gave you before. The architect who decided to make the purpose of his business architecture that inspires. That is actually a client of mine in Sydney. And this building is not one of his, but I couldn't go past that one. Isn't that fantastic? Whoever came up with that idea, brilliant. Anyway, so that's actually a client of mine in Sydney. And he and I came up with that expression of the purpose, architecture that inspires, some 4 or 5 years ago, and it truly has changed the face of his business entirely. You'll find it on his website, and all his staff have the statement hanging up near their desk. And the impact of committing to this statement has been enormous. It isn't hard anymore for them to decide which jobs and which clients they want to work on. And decisions about fees and staff and about the quality of the work have become so much easier. Most important of all is that it is so much easier to know what to say no to. And being able to say no is actually the most underrated business tool out there. So anyway, it's really quite wonderful to observe. When the two of us hit upon that statement, I actually hadn't foreseen what an enormous impact it would have on his business, his staff and himself. So moving right along, because as I said before, I get excited about this stuff. I can keep going on for days once I get on this particular soapbox. And I can hear you just thinking now, yeah, sounds nice, Roland, but is there actually any independently researched evidence to back up what you're saying, or is it just something that I've made up? And I am so glad that you asked that. Thanks for asking the great question, because interestingly, it's actually the case that this whole topic of the purpose of business is one of the most comprehensively documented business management concepts of the last 20 years. It really is, especially in academia. It clearly indicates that the days of focusing on maximizing shareholder value as the primary purpose of business are numbered. Absolutely. Because it also turns out, how I said it makes it easier to do business. It also turns out that being clear about the purpose of your business, it makes it so much easier to make money. Because some of the most profitable businesses worldwide, the businesses that make them the most money for their owners and then their shareholders long term, are actually the businesses that have absolute clarity on the deeper purpose of their business and how that relates to their clients. And that's the funny contradiction. It's nearly like a Zen statement. Like the sound of one hand clapping. By not focusing on profit, you actually make a lot more of it. Don't look at it or it'll disappear. So it's almost the opposite of what we're taught to expect or believe to be true. And that is exactly how it works. Proven time and time again, as I said before, by many people all around the world. And what's more, it's proven in small business and big business level just as much. I've seen a whole heap of small businesses that have taken this thinking to heart and have done so and are still doing exceedingly well. I mean, the architect that I talked to before, the profit is the least of his problem. The supermarket I mentioned, it's money is not something he needs to worry about, let me assure you. So now I know that a lot of you have one more big burning question in the forefront of your mind, and I can feel it burning, and that's this one. If, Roland, if what you're saying about the purpose of business being something entirely different from making money, and that we shouldn't focus on profit as the most important aspect of our business is the case, why do most business owners and managers and CEOs, investors and stock market analysts still seem to focus on maximizing shareholder value as the prime focus and motivator of business? And even if I say so myself, that's a great question. Again, thank you for challenging me. I believe the reason is actually this. It's just so much easier to talk about money. Money is such a simple thing to focus on and measure. All you need to do is look at a single number and ask, do I have more today than I had yesterday? And if you do, you're doing all right. And if you don't, you aren't, supposedly. But it's actually really hard to maintain a focus on something as tough as making the most beautiful tables in the world or the joy of driving. Every day there will be temptations to compromise. It means having tough conversations, doing tough work, and making tough decisions all the time. And it takes true courage. True courage to stick your neck out and say, from here forth, we only do architecture that inspires. Because that means that if a project or a client walks in the door that isn't at some level inspiring, then we say no to it, even if we could have made lots of money from the project. It's all about courage. Courage is tough. That's why it's called courage. Not many people are prepared to be truly courageous. And what's more is people, business owners, don't actually know that they need courage. They don't realize that they need to be courageous. People aren't having these discussions enough in business, or especially not in small business. Nobody has these discussions. It just doesn't happen. There might be an increasing number of MBA programs where this topic gets discussed, but most small business owners, of course, don't do MBA programs before they start their business. So what we end up doing is regurgitating the old maxim that business exists to grow and make profit, and it is just silly. It's pure silly. It really is completely silly. Because I don't know about you, but I bet you're not much different to me, because I don't even donate money to charity. Just because they tell me that they need more money. I don't donate money to charity because I believe in what they believe in. So I certainly don't go and spend money with a business because I identify with their need to make profit. I spend money with a particular business because they offer something that I want, because I trust them, and because I get what they exist for and what drives them, what they stand for. And then, and only then, after they've satisfied my needs, and then if after that they happen to make a lot of money, I'm perfectly okay with that. That doesn't bother me at all if all the other conditions are met before. So, I told you I can talk about this topic forever. And I really can get very excited about it too. I need a Bex and a lie down now. But so let's calm down with one of those business bedtime stories of mine. Imagine that we're all going to bed and I'm tucking you in. I'm snuggling in, lay back and listen to my story, because this is the story of John. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, in a land not unlike Australia, I worked with a small business owner called John. And John was an electrician. And John had an electrical contracting business, and John was quite proud of his business. But John felt that his business had been drifting aimlessly from job to job for some time, and his customers and his staff were not particularly engaged with the business either. One day, John and I realized that because John himself wasn't particularly clear on what the business was about or why it existed, he could hardly ask anyone else to be engaged with it either, and hence, over a period of some weeks, we went through a process to unearth what John himself was really all about, why he did what he did, what engaged him, and hence what the purpose of his company was. One day, in the middle of a conversation, John's face lit up, and I could see him smile from ear to ear. I really could. I remember it very clearly. Because what he realized was that what drove him more than anything else was safety. He couldn't sleep at night unless he knew that all his customers were sleeping safely too. The idea that any of his electrical installations might not be 100% safe would actually keep him up at night. And we honed in on this insight and clarified in the statement, "You're in safe hands. You are in safe hands." And I bet that some of you have seen the electricians' vans driving around with that statement on it. They're orange, they're bright orange vans, and they've got this statement on the side or on the back of these vans. Anyway, suddenly things started to fall into place. The whole direction and focus of the business became clear. John was able to communicate this purpose of safety and being in safe hands to his staff and engage them in it. And all his language with his customers and on his website and other collateral became about his passion for safety. John knew that he was on the right track with his purpose one day when one of his staff came up to him and said, "You know, you're always talking about that we're about total safety and that our customers are in safe hands. If that is so, don't you think we should stop using those cheap circuit breakers from now on?" Powerful, isn't it? Now, a few years later, it's hard to recognize John's business. The brand and the purpose have become one, and everyone associated with the company lives the purpose every day. And John, his staff, and his customers lived happily and safely ever after. The end. So before I'm going to talk about the lessons from John, I want you to go to your worksheet and write your own top takeaways down on your own worksheet. What's come up for you from everything that you've heard me talk about? What did you think when listening to John's bedtime story? What about the idea of deciding to be making the world's most beautiful tables, or you're in safe hands, or helping people experience the ultimate joy of driving? How does that strike you? What are the top 3 insights or learnings you've got from this workshop so far? Or maybe you actually have more questions than insights. So what are your top questions? Questions are good. Even if you don't get an answer to them, questioning is a good thing to do. So please go ahead and write those insights, learnings, questions, aha moments down. I'm going to give you another minute to write before I go on. And this space, I think it might be page 5 of your worksheet. Keep writing if you want, but we'll keep moving. So I'd love to hear and share any of those insights and questions. So if anyone has some of those insights and questions written down they'd like to share, please just type them in the chat window on the left there. And if and how and when appropriate, I'll share them with the group or comment back on them. So while you continue to write, these are my insights, the insights that I'd like you to take away. First, I talked about how making money can't be the abiding purpose of your business because it doesn't help to differentiate you, because your customers don't care, and because there are many more important things to achieve in life. 2, I talked about that competing on price is not a great strategy to base a business on. 3, and that to avoid having to compete on price, you need to be clear about the purpose of your business. And 4, that the purpose of your business has to relate to your customers' needs. And I talked about how great, that's number 5, and I talked about how doing great work for a great price with great customer service doesn't cut it as a statement of purpose, because everybody says that, and that you need courage to do anything else. And I went through a number of examples of great purpose statements and how a client of mine found his statement, "You are in safe hands." So we've had a couple of questions come up, and here's a question from John. And John says, I've thought about this before, but I find it really hard to get beyond good price, good quality, and good service. Not sure how to go about finding something else. That's a great question, John, and I'm sure that a lot of you have that question in mind. Rest assured, we're going to get there. We're going to help you find the easiest steps in this webinar before we finish. We've got a question from Edward. How to turn a complex concept into a simple or at least communicable concept. Yes, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's thanks for asking that question, Edward, because it's a question that probably troubles a lot of people. It's a process. It's a process. You find that the concepts are often much more feel much more complicated than they are, but you can always always can't promise that, but nearly always get to the essence and find what the essence is and define it in very few words. It's really quite surprising. I've done this many times now, and every time we start with a whole bunch of complicated and conflicting and convoluted wordy statements. And if we keep working it and keep digging, keep uncovering, because I always liken it to this process of finding something on a forest floor. It's about uncovering. There's something hidden underneath all the leaves, and we just got to move leaves aside and brush them aside until these shiny things start popping up. And it's always there. I use the word uncovering because it's not and not creating for a very good reason, because it is always there. But we need to uncover it, because the reason it's always there, because it's based on your personal deep values and beliefs. And we'll get back to that. But yes, in all cases, every time I've done this, gone through these exercises with people, we've managed to distill it down to an essence which just hits home and sings. It's really quite wonderful to see. But it is a process, and it's not a simple simple, quick conversation and a choice, because it's not about taglines, it's not about advertising slogans. It's a process of digging and uncovering and brainstorming, and it's a process that can take weeks. It's not. It's actually usual that it takes weeks. I hope that answered your question somewhat, Edward, but we're going to talk about it further as well. There's a comment from Julia. From Julia, a light went on for me. I suddenly realized that having a clear and deep purpose of my business means it's so much easier what to say no to in business. Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, that's right. It's so true. Saying no is I mentioned it before briefly, but because one of the most important reasons to be clear about the purpose of your business is so you know what to focus on, what opportunities to say yes to, and what opportunities to say no to. If you remember, I mentioned when I was talking about my client, the Italian Carlo, with the bags, the story of the bags, the importing of the bags, and I said when he found that concept to make Italian beauty available for everyone, it suddenly became possible for him to decide what opportunities to say no to and what opportunities to say yes to, and that ability to say no is just so powerful that stops you doing all this stuff you don't want to do and focusing on all directions. So yeah, it is one of the most important skills to develop, but without a clear, deep purpose, you don't know what to say no and yes to, and so yeah. And one more comment. No, I might leave that one for later. So let's move on. I want to give you some assistance in learning how to uncover that purpose of your business. And as I said before as well, actually, I'm talking about uncovering rather than creating, because the deeper purpose of your business already exists, I believe. You just haven't become conscious of it, and you certainly haven't verbalized it. So the process I want to encourage you to go through is that of uncovering rather than creating, and that starts here with 7 questions. 7 questions. This is partly an answer to your earlier question, Edward. To uncover the deep purpose of your business, you need to ask yourself 7 questions, and answering those questions in order will give you some amazing clarity on your on the business. I promise you. Here's at least the 7 questions. First, what are my 5 most important personal values as they relate to my business? Personal values. This is very personal. Remember, that personal stuff comes through that statement by Roy Spence in the title of his book. It's not what you sell, it's what you stand for. It's all about personal values and beliefs. Because second question is, what core beliefs do I hold about my business and my industry? Third, what do I get really excited about in business? What do I get out of bed for? What am I passionate about? Fourth, what do I want my business to be the best in the world at? And 5, who are my ideal customers? 6, what do my ideal customers need or want, or what pain do they have that they're not getting or is not being resolved for them at present by others, by the market, by competitors? And 7, critical, how can I address all those first 6 questions above and develop a long-term, sustainable, profitable business model around them? These are the questions that you need to ask yourself and answer, and they're not easy questions to answer, though. I'm not suggesting that they are. They'll take soul-searching and possibly brainstorming and digging around, and you might need others to help you with answering those questions. But answering those 7 questions will help you get to the bottom of it. So there's a set of worksheets. The worksheets that you've downloaded and printed out that on the webinar resources page has those 7 questions on them as well. The other thing is, and I'll just double check that. On that resources page with there's a bunch of bullet pointed resources, and the second last one, nearly immediately above the recording of this webinar, that says a worksheet and tool to help you clarify the purpose and passion. So there's another worksheet that you can download that helps you answer some of those questions, the first three especially. So I suggest you download that one as well and work through it along with the 7 questions. As I said though, these are not likely to be questions that you're going to be able to answer off the top of your head here on the webinar. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. So before we go on to action, let's have a look at the top takeaways again. And as before, there's some space on your worksheet to write down those top insights and learnings, and ask yourself, what are the top 3 insights that I've had since being on this webinar? What do I see now that I didn't see before? And maybe what are your top 3 questions? In other words, just take a moment to focus on the most important stuff that's going around in your head. And I'll give you another moment silence for that. So these are the insights again. 1, money is not the purpose of business. 2, competing on price sucks. 3, unless you're clear on your purpose, all that's left is competing on price. 4th, the purpose has to relate to your customers. 5, great work, great price, great service are minimum expectations. 6, it takes courage to commit to a deep purpose and stick to it. And 7, to uncover your purpose, start with your values, your beliefs and your passions, and ask the 7 questions. Spelling mistake. It says as to 7 questions on the slide. Obviously it needs to be asked. My deepest, sincerest apologies. So, any more questions? Yes, David. So the 7 questions look interesting, but how do I get started defining my values? Yeah, and that's that other worksheet that I mentioned. That's on the resources page. That's really going to help you with defining your values and your beliefs and your passions. So download that. Wendy. One of the 7 questions asked about being the best in the world. Isn't that presumptuous? Great question, Wendy. I'm glad that came up because it may sound presumptuous to say how you measure best in the world, right? But when I refer to best in the world for small business owners specifically, I believe that the world stands for your world. So if you're a plumber operating in the eastern suburbs of the city, and rather than the whole of Sydney, the inner west, then the world is the eastern suburbs or the inner western. And the best in the world statement therefore refers to a striving for statement, as in rather than a statement of achievement. So we strive to be the best plumber in the eastern suburbs. Now, it goes further than that. Because it's about striving, right? So you can strive to be the best in the world at something. And you, no doubt, will know what kinds of things you need to strive for in order to become the best in the world. It's what you define it to be. If you're a plumber and you strive to give the best customer service in the western suburbs of Sydney, what does that actually mean? And you can define that, because does it mean, for example, that you're never more than 5 minutes late for any appointments? Or does it mean that you never start a job without getting agreement on the price? Or does it mean that you always take your boots off before you work in? Whatever. You can make the decisions about what you believe to be the critical components of being the best plumber in the western suburbs of Sydney. We have any other burning questions? Don't think so. Then we're going to move on because there's one more opportunity to ask questions if you need to. So feel free to keep chatting, typing them in the chat window, and I'll answer them if I can, or otherwise via email afterwards. So let's move on. We're going to talk about some actions and some action steps. But before we go there, I mentioned that I want to make a special offer to you that I've designed to make it as easy as possible for you to take a step forward out of feeling daunted and overwhelmed, and about finding clarity about the purpose of your business and the key business development priorities and opportunities that are screaming for your attention every day. So as I said, I'm totally committed to help as many small business owners in the world as possible build fun businesses that sustain them for years to come, and to feel great about themselves and about their business. Remember, I asked you to focus before on and write down your most pressing issues, your biggest challenges in your business right now. So have another look at that, what you wrote down there. Is that still your biggest challenge, or has something changed about that, or shifted about that? So check in with yourself on that, please. And make a change, amend what you wrote down there if you need to. So here's the deal. I want to help you with that. I want to help you find some simple, effective steps forward in relation to that biggest challenge, your most pressing issue. And especially, I want to help you take a next step towards absolute clarity in the purpose of your business. And I want to make that, for you to take the next step forward, I want to make it so easy for you that it's a no-brainer. This is the easiest I can make it. This is the easiest I can make it to help you take one step forward in your business around the clarity of your business and your most pressing issues. First, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get to carry out a really powerful business health check, and you're going to get a simple and easy to understand written report on the state of health of your business across 10 different key aspects of your business. That's first. You're going to get a hard copy of my first book, The 10 Truths for Raising a Healthy, Bouncy Business. Third, you're going to get to sit down for an hour with me face-to-face or via video link, one-on-one, and you're going to get take an enormous step forward towards finding that clarity in your business and where you are now and where you want to go. You'll walk away with some powerful renewed focus and one or more simple action steps that will start you to move towards resolving that big pressing issue and finding clarity of the purpose of your business. And all you have to do to get started, this is the offer, all you have to do to get started is simply to make a donation of $100 or more, of course, to my favorite charity, the Wayside Chapel in Sydney. It truly will be the most fun and most effective charity donation you've ever made in your life. The offer is also on your worksheet and on that web page, the resources page. So back to the grind. Before we get into action, remember these were the main insights. Money is not the purpose of your business. Competing on price sucks. Unless you're clear on the purpose of your business, you can only compete on price. The purpose has to relate to your customers. Great work, great price, and great service are minimum expectations. Takes courage to commit to a deep purpose and stick to it, and to uncover your purpose, start with your values, beliefs, and passions, and ask the 7 questions. And now we're going to get to action. Ain't nothing going to change if you ain't take no action. So there is a special resources page, and you've had links to that before. There's more resources on there. There's all sorts of stuff on there. And you've got your worksheets, and there's another copy. So the next steps are these. First, set some time aside. Set some time aside over the next few days to be able to get into this. Be sure you do this. Don't set time aside if you do not make time available for this. If you don't set time aside to do something with what you've learned and the information that I've given you today and at the presentation, in the next few days, then coming on this webinar has been a waste of your time. Plain and simple. Waste of your time. The only thing that ultimately makes any difference is what actions you take. So look at the worksheet on page 9. There's resources on the landing page, questionnaire about passion and purpose that helps you answer the 7 questions. So this is what I'd like you to do. Go to the landing page and watch the Simon Sinek video. Download the passion and purpose worksheet. Put aside somewhere between half an hour and an hour to complete the worksheet. Download the article on which this webinar is based and read it. Make a first attempt at answering the 7 questions. Brainstorm with someone and draft a first sentence or paragraph about the purpose of your business and send it to me by email, because I'd really love to see them and I'd love to give you some feedback on what you come up with. And finally, I'm going to ask you something weird. I'm going to ask you a question that's called scaling or relative scaling. It's actually a really powerful method that to help people get unstuck, or to help people out of overwhelm, and to help people find really small, simple steps to move a big project forward and get unstuck with it. So on your worksheet is a scale from 0 to 10. It's called your Master of Purpose scale. 10 on the scale is that you're totally purpose-driven with a capital P in your business. All decisions, all actions are based on your purpose, and 0 is the opposite. What number would you give yourself on that scale? 10 is that you are totally purpose-driven in your business, and 0 is the opposite. What number would you give on that scale? Now, next question. Ask yourself the question, what do I need to do this coming week, between now and next week, Thursday evening, this coming week, to move one small increment up my Master of Purpose scale? What is one specific action that I can take to move one small increment up my Master of Purpose scale? So if you said you were 6, for example, how can you go from 6 to 6.1? Now get out your diary. That's next action. Get out your diary and book that specific action, or actions into your diary next week. And finally, book time in. Remind yourself, put a reminder in your phone or in your diary, or hang a yellow sticky on your screen, or whatever you need to do to ask yourself the same question on Thursday evening next week. That's it for this webinar. Make sure you do these actions, because especially the scaling exercise at the end, they'll not take much time at all, but taking the time to do them means that you'll be taking the first step to building a fun business that sustains you for years to come. So do it. The link to the donation on the website Chapel is at the bottom of your worksheet. It's also on the resources page, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to give it to you here now. It's thewaysidechapel.com. Hang on, I'll just type in http://thewaysidechapel.com. Click on that, and then you'll see a donate button. Click on that and donate $100 and let me know. So it truly will be the best $100 you've ever donated to anything or anyone. It's a fantastic organization too. I'd really love you to take up the offer. You will get a valuable insight, learning, and clarity out of the Health Check the Report, my first book, and the session. And I promise you, it is the best deal you've had all year. So, and it will help you get a step closer. What's happening? Something's happening now. It's all good. Any more questions? Any more questions before I finish? Anyone got another question? Remember, if you take nothing else away from this webinar, ask yourself that question today. How can I become a little bit more purpose-driven in my business next week? Try it out. I know you'll be surprised about the impact that this will have on your business and your life. I promise you. Any last questions? Speak now, forever hold your peace, or feel free to email me, by the way. that's it. There's the link again, the waysidechapel.com, and follow donations. Any questions, email me at roland@newperspectives.com.au, or I think you probably have my phone numbers as well. Call me. And thanks for joining us tonight. And you will be getting an email to follow up, which will have the offer repeated, but also specifically it'll have the link to the recording. As a matter of fact, the recording is going to be on that same page, the resources page. That you've got the link up there, but I'll give you that link for you. Yeah. So that's great. Thank you very much. Turning off the recording.